Good afternoon, Express Nation. It is February 2nd, and I got another transfer portal shakeup episode for y'all. Quick reminder, last episode, I talked about how I would fix the college football playoff and how I would kind of structure college football in general. So if you're interested in listening to that full episode, stop listening right now. Tune into last week's, listen to it. If you want to get into the discussions where you can comment, into one-on-one discussions with me, download Substack. That is where I'm at, posting my articles, posting little side notes. This is another platform that I upload my episodes so you can get it all in one go. Articles, one-on-one conversations. You can ask me what you want me to talk about in that week. I'll give you a shout out, and you can listen to my podcast in all in one go. Reminder, it is called Substack, Stubstack. Substack. You can get it in any Apple Store, Google Play. And that will probably be the best way going forward to interact with Football Express and be a part of the Express Nation. But in today's transfer portal shakeup, what I'm going to talk about will be two teams I think are going in a positive direction. I've loved the hiring at head coach that they've made. I especially love how their transfer portal classes shaped up. And those two teams being Auburn and Oklahoma State. Both teams hired a offensive-minded head coach, with Alex Golesh going to Auburn, Eric Morris going to Oklahoma State. And I personally love both offenses. Both of them are similar, but both of them are highly different. Alex Golesh, high pace, veer and shoot style type of offense. Eric Morris, he will lean into the run game a little bit more traditionally and is going to be driven by more of a traditional style type of quarterback than probably you would see out of Alex Golesh, who's going to have a lot of playmakers on the outside with a lot of speed, a lot of quick routes, and then your quarterback's going to be that dynamic dual threat type of guy like you see out of Baron Brown. But at the end of the day, I love both offenses. I can't really tell you who I would favor over the other because I think both do things tremendously and both have their flaws. But that's not what today's episode is about. Today is to talk about what Auburn under Alex Golesh and what Oklahoma State under Eric Morris has been doing and how I kind of feel about it. So starting off with Auburn. Alex Golesh, a little history on him. If y'all do not know a little bit of who he is, he used to work under as an assistant, Sam Pittman and Matt Campbell. Then he had another stop at Tennessee as a co-offensive coordinator under Josh Heupel. And then he took over South Florida, where over the last 3 years, he has turned that team into a competitive group of five school. Had his blunders, couldn't really close out at the end of the seasons, but with a healthy offense, you're talking about dynamite. This past season, averaging just under 500 yards a game at 495, 42 points per game, which is second in the nation in both categories. So, you're talking about a very dynamic offense. The offense led by who I found as being one of the most underrated quarterbacks coming into 2025, being Baron Brown. Just over 3,000 total passing yards, 42 total touchdowns. I think he was just shy of around 800 to 900 total yards on the ground. Very dual threat type of quarterback. You've seen it when he was healthier during his sophomore year. You've seen it again during his senior year. Injury kind of cut him up in his junior year. So Baron Brown is a guy that, coming with Alex Golesh, a very important piece to this offense. But I can talk about Baron Brown all day because coming into 2025, I thought this guy was going to be a star in the making. He had some turnover problems. He needs to fix that in order for Auburn to be highly competitive because you can't make those same G5 mistakes in the Power Four, especially going over to the SEC. You go into the SEC, you go into one of the two top program or two top conferences in the entire country. You can't make the same G5 mistakes at that level. But other than his interceptions, his fumbles, if he just learns how to be more secure with the ball, take care of it a little bit better. This guy is a stat merchant. He's a scoring machine. He's a dynamic player. Go watch the tape on him and you will fall in love with how he plays ball. He plays a little raw sometimes, but I think with a little bit more development because he has dealt with a lot of injuries. Having that full season under his belt this past season, I think is going to do a lot of tremendous things for his development this offseason. That's why I have a high outlook on what Auburn could do under Alex Golesh, led by Baron Brown. And when you start looking at the weapons that they're going to be going to, we can talk about this Auburn's high school class, recruiting class all day long. But right now, I just want to focus on what that transfer class is looking like. Because when you look over at the receivers, you're going to have Jeremiah Coger. You're going to have Christian Newton. You're going to have and then you're going to have on the offensive line Cole Skinner, Cole Best. You want to have a lot of that similarity to continue that continuity of Alex Golesh's offense, to build that chemistry a little faster. And then you're bringing in Stanton Ramal and Joseph Simmons from JMU and Mississippi State to kind of flush out and build a solid offensive line. And then you got Davenport, running back from South Florida, who is one of the most explosive guys on tape. You give him a crease, he's gone. So having that firepower to pair up with who I think is one of the best signings for South Florida, being Byerson Washington out of Baylor. I mean, that's a bell cow type of back, 20-plus carries, probably give him a little over 20 carries, and he's going to have a field day. So I think that offensive system that he's got going on with Barron Brown at quarterback, then you're going to pair that up with a Washington and Davenport running back duo and mix in a little bit of who they have in RB3, because I do think those two guys will be 1 and 2. And then you look at what they got at the receiving core. Yes, they're going to lose Malcolm Simmons, and yes, they're losing Cam Coleman, but you're replacing those two guys with a bunch of chemistry at a lot of speed, so you're not losing much. You might be losing overall talent, but that chemistry can replace overall talent, because if your quarterback can trust your receivers, that's going to replace the overall talent any day, because you would I would say much rather have a quarterback that can trust the receivers, that can know where to throw the ball on his breaks. And if he knows he breaks on a corner route, he knows exactly where to throw it on the shoulder. He knows exactly to throw it in front where his receiver can best play it. He knows how his receiver breaks the route, how fast his receiver comes off the route, how's his receiver, what's his favorite position to catch the ball. Those type of things all come with chemistry, all with knowing your players, all with knowing your teammates. So yes, Cam Coleman's highly talented, but he doesn't have that chemistry with everybody else. So I would say it's cool losing those guys. And like I said, they've worked really, really hard in locking down that offensive line. And Oklahoma State, another team that, like I mentioned earlier, I really like what they're doing. They're doing very similar things. Eric Morris brought in Drew Mestemaker, Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young. The core offensive unit for that North Texas team is all going to Oklahoma State. Drew Mestemaker, lack of football experience and balled out last year. A lot of eyes is on him. Caleb Hawkins, the best freshman running back in all of college football last year, going down 29 touchdowns, leading the nation, and finished around the top 5 marker in total rushing yards. I mean, absolute beast. Granted, he is going up a level. That G5, like I've always said in all my videos, what separates your G5 from your Power 4 will be how the trenches operate. Your offensive line at a Group of 5 school might not necessarily be just like your offensive line at a Power 4 school. That's what makes or breaks a team right there. That's what separates the levels. So I would like to see what Caleb Hawkins, a running back who averaged 6.1 yards a carry. 2 carries a first down is how he was operating. That is tremendous. You can basically run an offense off of that. But I would like to see what he would do under a Power 4 offensive line. That last year did not do a whole lot. Once again, you got Eric Morris coming in with that tremendous offense that he has. But enough of the running back. Let's talk a little bit about the receivers that he's going to have. You got Wyatt Young coming in. You're going to have Justin Bowick from Illinois coming in. Chris Barnes out of Wake Forest coming in. These are former 4- and 5-star receivers that are going to form probably the 3 starting receivers on this Oklahoma State squad. And then you're going to have Miles Cole, another North Texas player who had 550 yards. Israel Pollock, another guy who was a MAC monster last year with 520 and 8 touchdowns in the MAC. And Donovan Green coming from LSU, adding another mismatch, another target for Drew Mestemaker. So you really see that build up in those weapons that Eric Morris is going to bring in. And a lot of them going to have a lot of chemistry with Drew. That's going to help Drew get over that little slump of going from P4 or going from G5 to P4. And once again, hitting that offensive line. He's bringing in 4 different guys from North Texas that was part of the offensive line. Then he's going to bring in Tyler Mercer, an interior from Kansas, Jacob Saxon, and tackle from Oklahoma, Joseph Hanson, a tackle from Coastal Carolina. to kind of keep formulating that depth. And then he's went hard on the defensive side. All in all, I mean, this guy went 50, almost 50 total, 50 plus portal signings, which is a lot of guys. I mean, you are turning over and trying to build a team in one offseason, which during the NIL era, we've seen teams do it. Texas Tech did it last year, and Oklahoma State ain't throwing out that type of money, but still, we've seen Texas Tech do it. We've seen multiple other schools. Indiana has been able to build their way to a national championship through just bringing in their guys, reloading in the transfer portal. You see them went and won the Big Ten in 2 years under Kurt Scanetti. You have some guys on the other side that really hasn't really been able to figure out how to utilize the transfer portal, even though they have a high turnover and have a high income, like North Carolina, bringing in 70 guys. You see how the way they perform. It took a long time for that chemistry to match. And I think a lot of that has to go to you brought in 70 guys, but of those 70 guys, how many actually played together is the question. So what I would say, this is my outlook on Oklahoma State. I'm going to give another review of how they look come spring practice. But as of right now, Drew Mestemaker is a starter. Even though he will be competing with another transfer quarterback, I don't think he's losing a spot. Mestemaker will end up being the starter. You're going to have Caleb Hawkins as RB1. You're going to have a bunch of other guys who are going to be fighting for that RB2 spot. More than likely, Young, Bowick, and Barnes are going to be your top 3 receivers, with Cole playing out of the slot, probably mixed in with Pollock. Those are going to probably be your 2 guys that are fighting out, fighting for that 4th spot. But your 3 guys are going to be Young, Bowick, Barnes. And then Donovan Green more than likely is going to end up being the starter. Probably going to split reps with Harmon. Overall, that is a phenomenal offensive skill group. I think probably one of the best that you're going to find coming out of the transfer portal. Like, especially in the Big 12, I think it's going to put them around the top 3 in the Big 12 overall skill position. Quarterback-wise, I would say Drew Mestemaker is a top 3 quarterback in the Big 12 right now, just based off of what he done last year. So with all that said, as of right now, I would think Oklahoma State is a 8-5 team, way better than a 1-11 team from this past season. The floor is 500. 6-6. Ceiling, I could see a 9-3 season. I want to see what their spring practice is going to look like, how they're looking in their spring game to give you a more confident answer on that. Because right now, 6-6, 9-3. I mean, yes, that's a 3-game difference, but that's real. I have no true indicator where they exactly finish. So that is their range for me. I don't see them finishing under 500, even without having to watch spring practice. I don't see a under 500 season out of Eric Morris. The biggest question is going to be, can Drew actually make those adjustments during training? But with what Morris has been able to do as a quarterback coach, I'm pretty sure Mestemaker is going to make those adjustments. Looking at Auburn, I'm pretty sure I didn't give you my outlook on Auburn. With a regrouped at offensive line, that's going to be the biggest question. Not about how Baron Brown's going to develop, not about how he meshes with the other pass catchers or what that running back room might end up looking like, because I'm pretty sure Washington and Davenport are going to be the 1-2 out of the running backs. And if that's your 1-2 combo, that's going to be a pretty deadly combo. I think the biggest question for them is going to be, can that offensive line mesh well? Will they be able to formulate chemistry during the offseason to actually get the gears turning and create some type of formidable offense to really test a lot of those defenses that they will face in the SEC. Once again, I think you got to, I would honestly say, because the offensive line is a lot more questionable than probably how your quarterback will perform, I would say 5-7, 9-3. I don't really see 4-8, 3-7, but what I would say is 5-7 is going to be their range. 9-3 is going to be their ceiling. So all in all, that's my spring outlook on both Oklahoma State and Auburn. A little side note to that, I think what's going to help both squads out will be their experience from the Pac-12 and the SEC. Both guys have already played, or both guys have already coached in each conference, so they already can kind of expect what certain teams will throw at them, which will make their game planning on week-to-week basis in certain games a little bit easier. With that out the way, I'm going to go ahead and cut this podcast short, or cut it off. Like always, go and hit all the socials I dropped in the description below. Make sure you download Substack to stay connected, to read the articles, to stay on that one-on-one basis with me. And like always, thank you for supporting Express Nation, and I'll see y'all in the next one.